You know, some engine sounds are just music, right? The clatter of solid lifters and forged pistons all just rocking around inside the motor. You know, they're supposed to make noise. They sound good, right? But generally speaking, when you've got an internal engine noise, what you suspect to be an internal engine noise, it's not a happy thing. You know, they're not supposed to make noise. So what I wanted to do is just a quick guide to help troubleshoot typical engine sounds. So you could kind of do it on the fly, you know what you're listening to, or at least you can pinpoint and take some of the aggravation out of pinpointing these noises. Now obviously, there are so many different types of engines and so many different configurations that it's literally impossible to do one video that covers all of them. Some engines just have very specific things that fail inside of them or around them, and they'll have their telltale thing, and it's specific to that engine. And there was one, I'll give you an example of this. There was one that drove me out of my mind. Actually, it cost me money. This is years and years ago when the 3800 Buicks had just come around. They were only around for a couple of years or so. And I had one that came in with a very distinct, what I diagnosed to be a rod knock. Like this thing was, you'd start it up and it would just sit there going, duck, 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 duck. And it had all of the symptoms of, all of the audio symptoms of a rod knock. So I ordered all of the parts to redo it. I ordered a crank kit, an overhaul gasket set and everything else, oil pumping. And I was just gonna pull the motor and this is for a customer's car. I'm just gonna pull the motor and rebuild it. So parts come in, it's okay, it's go time. And I pull the motor out and the motor's out of the car now. And I noticed that the damper, as I'm moving stuff around, I noticed the damper goes thunk, thunk. On that particular engine, the damper was set in such a way, it was fitted, the inertia ring was fitted with a very loose elastomer, and it had failed. And there was a stop on either side of it to keep it from rotating all the way around. So as this engine was running, just normal running, it was rocking back and forth against that hard stop in the damper and making a very distinct rod sound, right? So, you know, it's stuff like that, it happens. But that's an example of one specific engine, one specific sound. I want to talk about the generalities. Now also, it's hard to talk about these things without how do you listen to sounds? So we did a video a long time ago on telegraphing sounds using things like long half-inch drive extensions and broomstick handles, and people use baseball bats, all sorts of things to try to isolate the sound, but you know, using your ear, putting your ear. Okay, I'm sure you're familiar with the process. But if not, we did a video on that. You could just do a search on engine sounds, so finding engine sounds. All right, so let's talk about the different types of sounds and how you can narrow them down, like I says, on the fly, which is something I did when I bought that XJ. I heard the video. I heard the sounds of it on the video, and I knew, I didn't know, I was 90% certain that it wasn't an internal engine sound I was hearing, it was an external engine sound I was hearing, because it wasn't rhythmic. So that's the first thing you have to do. The first thing you have to know. Most internal engine sounds are rhythmic, right? And when and how they materialize, they get louder or they get quieter, is the key to determining what they are. Unfortunately, most of the times, it means the motor's got to come out, it's got to come apart. But at least you have an idea going in what it's going to be. So, like I said, when I bought this XJ, I could hear it while it was running. They posted a video of the thing running, and I could hear that it was not a rhythmic sound. It was a clattering, disorganized sound. So I knew right away it was going to be one of two things. It was going to be either something on the front of the engine, one of the accessory drives, or not so much the accessory drive, something having to do with the front of the engine. It could have been a bad idler. It could have been a bad bearing in the AC clutch. It could be a bad power steering pump. It could be any of those things. So in that event, you want to diagnose something like that. If you have a very disorganized, rattling, grating type of sound, take the belt off. Just take the belt off, start the motor. If it goes away, well, you found your problem. If it doesn't go away, well, then you have to look someplace else. So the second most common place for a grating, rattling, uneven, non-rhythmic sound is going to be in the torque converter, or I should say in the torque converter area, or in the bell housing. So, loose torque converter bolts will mimic a rod knock. If you've got 1 or 2 torque converter bolts that come loose, as the engine is running, it's running at an even RPM, the converter is going to pulsate a little bit. And when it does, that loose bolt is going to go duck, 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 and it'll sound just like a rod knock. It'll be a deeper sound coming from low in the engine. In our case, where we were dealing with a very scattered, disorganized, non-rhythmic sound, I knew that it was going to be a broken flex plate. So, and here's the thing, because I have an idea, I know these engines fairly well, these Jeeps fairly well, I know that it's a very common problem. And here's what happens with these. So this is the replacement flex plate that I just bought for this. All right, and what happens is, here's where it bolts to the crankshaft, and these things will crack around the perimeter of these bolts, right along the outside part of the flange of the flywheel, of the crankshaft. And what'll happen is, it'll break all the way around. And when it does, when the engine is sitting there idling, this is going back and forth. It's shaking and rattling and clanging, right? And it does it in a very non-rhythmic way. It's just a racket. The telltale, when you've got this situation, and it's not just unique to this Jeep, broken flex plates are a common occurrence in a lot of engines or a lot of vehicles. The telltale with this is that when you put it in gear, it'll go away. As soon as it's loaded, it'll go away, right? And when you let the load off, you put it, let's say, back into park or neutral, it'll start going crazy again, because there's nothing holding it together. They're moving at different speeds, different oscillations, okay? But when you put it in gear and it's loaded now, so what'll happen is, the broken edges, the jagged broken edges, and I'm exaggerating the amount of jagged, right? But it'll act kind of like a spline, and it'll maintain the outer to the inner just through that uneven broken piece. So it'll drive like that. I've seen people drive these things, God knows how many miles, clanging and making all kinds of racket like that, because that jagged edge, it's acting like a spline, and it's keeping everything together, but it'll still rattle like crazy. So, idling, relaxed, put it in gear, broken flex plate. Okay, so now, let's go inside the motor. Tapping sounds, the most common internal engine sound you're going to find is a tapping sound, like a lifter noise, tick 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 tick, and it'll change with RPM. Now there are 2 things that'll give you. Okay, again, generally speaking now, because on some engines, timing chain stretch will give you a noise like that. There's all different specific, noises that go to specific engines that will mimic these other things. But I'm talking about in general now. So you got 2 things that'll give you that tick, 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 that RPM sensitive tick, 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 tick. So it gets faster with RPM, it gets slower at idle. So the first would be a lifter noise. And obviously a lifter noise is going to be a bad lifter, a collapsed lifter, a bent push rod, a broken valve spring, anything in that loop. The most common thing in the old days, like for instance on the Chevys with the Piston rocker studs, the rocker stud used to walk out over time, and it would start to give you a lifter noise. Lots and lots of things will give you a lifter noise. If it's a singular tick, then you know it's going to be isolated to just one, and that's generally a good thing. But if it's multiple ticks, or they're all clattering at the same time, you have bigger fish to fry than just one lifter. That's an oil pressure failure or a circulation problem inside the engine, and the lifters are collapsing, assuming they're hydraulic lifters. Generally speaking, lifter noises are top end. Nothing's got to come apart. Nothing's got to come out. You can do it all inside the car. whatever happens, whatever needs to be done. But down low, pin noises will give you a very similar thing. You'll also get a very similar tick, 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 tick. Now, when I say a pin noise, here are your failure points, okay, or potential failure points. You could have excessive clearance between the rod and the pin, excessive clearance between the pin and the piston. You could have a crack anywhere here between the pin and the bottom of the piston. Any of those things are going to give you a very typical lifter noise sounding thing. It'll be RPM sensitive, the same way a lifter noise is RPM sensitive. But here's the easiest way to distinguish between a piston noise. Oh, there's one other thing too that'll give you that too. I'm sorry. A cracked skirt. Sometimes the skirts will crack, and when the skirt cracks, the piston will rock. So, and that'll give you another very similar telltale, exactly the same type of sound. That tick, 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 right? Not deep. It'll sound like a lifter noise. All right. So here's how you differentiate between lifter noise and piston noise. Okay. Lifter noise is never load sensitive. So let's say you're driving steady state, 30, 40 miles an hour, and you vary the gas, you vary the RPM, you vary the load. The lifter noise will never get quieter or louder. The lifter noise will always maintain the same type of volume, right? But a piston noise changes due to load. So for instance, you can have an engine sits there at idle and it'll be going tick, 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 tick. Okay. Now, you drive it. You're driving it easy. The noise is there. You can hear it. Now you get it up to, let's say, 30, 40, 50 miles an hour. And at that RPM, at that speed, that load, the noise gets quieter or even goes away completely. Now, let off the gas lightly. And if you let off the gas lightly, the noise comes back. So in other words, what you're doing is you're reducing the load on the piston and rod assembly when you're letting off the gas, but she's spinning. The noise comes back or it gets louder, you know it's a piston noise. If it stays consistent, it's a lifter noise. Did I say that right? I think I said that right. All right. So piston sounds are load sensitive. They're RPM, but mostly load sensitive. And valve train sounds stay consistent regardless of load. All right. So now we go to the really nasty stuff. Not that piston and pin noises aren't nasty. Although I got to tell you something now about pin noises. So the Jeep 4.0, which is what started this whole idea about engine sounds. The Jeep 4.0 is known for cracked pistons. The piston will crack right around the pin, and it'll give you a pin noise, a very distinct tick, 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 tick. So I bought that, my first one, my 98. I bought that one knowing that I was going to have to go into the engine. And I planned it in my head. I said, okay, I'm just going to pull the motor and I'll rebuild it. I'll drive it until it breaks, okay? And then I'll take it apart. I'll tell you what now. I bought that thing a little over a year and a half ago. I have put 51,000 miles on it, right? 51,000 miles. It has been everywhere. It's made a round trip. I'm in Tennessee. It's made a round trip to Pennsylvania, round trip to Florida, round trip to North Carolina. It's made several round trips, like to Arkansas and Mississippi. Like, it's on the road constantly. I use this thing all the time. And it never gets louder, it never gets quieter, it always stays exactly the same. Tick, 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 tick. So 51,000 miles so far. I'm waiting for it to just launch so I could actually dig in and rebuild it. And when I do, I think I may do a stroker, but I'm going to keep going until this thing stops. Now it's like, how far can we push this thing? And I do not baby it. I do not baby it at all. I drive it fairly hard. And it just keeps going. So a pin noise or a piston noise does not necessarily mean certain impending doom. You can get away. And again, on the flip side, it could, next time I start the thing up, it could decide to just launch the pin through the, So that's that. All right. So now we get to the ugly stuff. The ugly stuff is your rod noises. Okay, so Rod noises. There's really only one thing that will give you a bottom end, a rod knock, and it's a failed bearing. Now, if you've got a rod knock, no matter how you look at it, that engine is coming out. There's a problem. But it's kind of nice to know ahead of time just how much you're in for. So, a singular rod knock could be the result of pretty much anything. A singular rod knock could be oil starvation. It could be that piston went through a detonation cycle and it distorted the bearing. There's a lot of things that will give you a singular rod knock. But either way, it's got to come out. And a rod knock is obviously tuk, 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 tuk. And it's always deeper. It's always a deeper sound than either a pin noise or a valve tray noise. You've got a singular rod knock. You got to take the motor apart, but it's generally easily rebuildable or easily repairable. Now, when you have multiple rod knocks, so let's just say, for instance, you hear a complex rod knock. It's not as simple, duck, 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 but it's like a duck, 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 you know what I mean? Like you can hear that there's a couple of them going in there. All right. A multiple rod knock is usually caused by main bearing failure, and it'll be the center mains. Now, the reason why you can deduce this is that the outer mains that have the main feed, so the oil is forced through the block to the main bearing, and from the main bearing it's distributed to the rods. When either, I'm going to use a 5 main bearing V8 as an example. If there's a problem at the front or the back, so the number 1 or the number 5 main, it'll only affect one rod, the one that's closest to it. But if the failure is in 2, 3, or 4, it will affect 2 rods. So if you spin, let's say, the number 2 main bearing, you're going to make noise, you're going to starve cylinders number 2 and number 3 of oil, because that one center main, that number 2 main, feeds oil to both of those cylinders. So you'll get a multiple rod knock. Now, again, oil starvation will give you something like that. It will lead to something like that. But more often than not, what you'll find is if you autopsy an engine that has had multiple bearings go bad, multiple rod bearings go bad, and they're on either side of a main, you're going to find that the crank is bent. So let's say you're dealing with an oil starvation problem. You ran it out of oil, or you over revved it, and whatever it happens to be. If it was an oil starvation problem, you'll find damage from one end of the engine to the other. But when you autopsy it, if you find that there's only one main and 2 rods that are damaged, or one main, let's assume it's number 1 and number 5, one main and 1 rod, you can assume then that the crank is out. That's the run out of the crank. And if you look at the specification for your engine, it'll tell you the maximum amount of run out. And run out is just how not true the crank is. The crank is supposed to spin exactly true in the main bearings. But as a crank ages, or it's exposed to like stresses, like detonation or whatever it happens to be, the crank will bend a little bit. When the crank bends, so let's just say it starts out completely true, and you have an event that puts the crank out 1/1000th of an inch. 1/1000th of an inch of run out, 2/1000th of an inch of run out isn't going to kill an engine, but as you go on, that run out continues. The crank continues to want to spin out of round, and so it'll get worse and worse and worse until it grabs one of the main bearings, spins it, blocks off the oil hole, and next thing you know, boom, you've got spun bearings. Okay. Now, those are drastic sounds. Now, how do you determine if an engine, the health of an engine, the bottom end of an engine, if it isn't making a very distinct, tapping or knocking sound? This is one that actually this is a very archaic or an outdated explanation of it, right, or description of it. So you'll have to apply it. But this is something that I've been using to describe it since like the 80s. All right, so engine is idling, it's not making any noise, okay? You rev it up, it doesn't really make any noise. But if you rev it to, let's say, 1500, 1800, 2000 RPM, and then stop revving it, but just hold the RPM steady, at that point, if you hear something that sounds like a phone ringing underwater, and that's why I say it's like a very archaic, description, because we don't have that phone sound anymore. But I used to tell people, if it sounds like a phone ringing underwater, that's excessive clearances or low oil pressure, low supply through the entire bottom end of the engine. And the whole thing is just going, and you'll only hear that, like I said, you'll bring it to you won't hear it at idle really. You'll hear it, and you won't hear it when you rev the engine, but you'll hear it when the RPM is up, 1500, 2000, 2500 RPM, and then you steady out the RPM. Just hold it there and let it float. And that's when, if you've got a sloppy bottom end, you'll hear, like I said, that phone ringing underwater sound. And that tells you that the thing is just loose downstairs. There's also a visual way to tell that too. If you have a mechanical oil pressure gauge on the car, what you do is you get the car to, let's say, 30 miles an hour, 40 miles an hour in high gear, and watch the oil pressure gauge as you give it gas. Punch it. Watch the oil pressure gauge. And if you see the gauge dip before it starts to rise with RPM, it means that what happens is when you gave it gas, you're pushing the crank down away from the oil feed. And if there's excessive clearances there, you'll see the oil pressure dip a little bit before it starts to climb. And that'll tell you that the bottom end of the engine is loose. Am I leaving anything out? Have I forgotten anything? I don't think so. I think I covered pretty much. I think I've covered pretty much the universe of, detrimental engine sounds and how to diagnose it. I'm sure as soon as I finish filming this, something else will pop into my head, and I'll say, "Oh, gee, I should have included that." But at any rate, I hope you got something out of that. I hope you find it useful. There's a lot of times, like I said, you're looking at buying a car, or and you want to know real quick, what is this sound? Hopefully this will give you a little bit of confidence to know whether it's going to be a minor thing or you got to dig in and go deep. So that's it, guys. I see you tomorrow.